PRT, we belong to you.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'd like to welcome Mr. Jim Wood, our good friend. And normally when I start off, I usually ask if I wasn't bothering you, what I'd be doing. But just to show how nice Jim was, he is willing to do this during our dinner break. So Jim, I want to start off by thanking you for coming here. And first off, how are you?
I'm good. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And we just got done with a Shrek rehearsal. How'd you feel about that?
I have a lot of lines to learn yet.
But thankfully we have time still.
Yep.
So instead, I'll rephrase my first question. If I wasn't bothering you and you were on your dinner break, what would you be doing? Would you have went home and ate supper, or would you still be here at the PAC, which is pretty much our home?
I would either still be here at the PAC or home taking a nap.
Pretty much just a quick cat nap, and it's like, back to work. So let's begin. Where were you born?
I'm originally from Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
How is it pronounced?
Council Bluffs. Yep.
What's the population?
Well, when I was there, probably about 75,000.
Okay. So it's not like a population 30 or anything.
No, basically if it was in Nebraska, it'd be a suburb of Omaha.
Okay.
So.
Got it. And did you, how big was your family? Was it just you, or did you have any siblings at all? Or?
I have two older sisters.
Okay.
So.
And are any of them in theater as well? Or?
Not at all. Nope. None of my family is, actually.
And we'll talk about this more a little bit, but when you decided to go into theater, were they very supportive or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have my family's always been very supportive of that. Like most college freshmen, I changed my major about 10 times as I was trying to figure out what I want. Originally went to USD on a journalism scholarship.
The other place.
Yep, the other place. But it was after a while just messing around in theater, I just realized, that's where my true passion is. That's what I wanted to do.
Do you remember that when that little theater bug bit you? When you're like, oh, I'm thinking I might actually do this? Was there a play that motivated you? Or?
Yep. Freshman year of high school, a girl I was dating at the time, she was very big into theater, and she was in a show, and I went to watch her, hung out, watched a couple rehearsals, and she said, you should try this. It'd be fun. So I auditioned for the next show and got in, and she did not. And I always tell people it's funny because the theater lasted, but the girl didn't. But the first show was Antigone by Sophocles. And so being like a 14-year-old kid and doing a Greek tragedy, I was pretty awful. But I've gotten better.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Before you went into college, did you get many roles in high school at all? Or?
Yeah, I always played in high school. I don't know if it's because I was one of the only people that could do a British accent or what, but I always played the really goofy British kid or...
Cockney or...
Both of them, Cockney or Standard British. And I was always the goofy one in all the plays. And so that's where I kind of developed my taste for comedy, and I'm revisiting that a little bit, playing Donkey and Shrek, being able to be the goofball again. So
you graduate high school and you went to USD right away?
Mm-hmm.
Was there any part of you that was debating SDSU, or you went to USD right away? I'm going to USD.
I went to USD because of the journalism scholarship.
Okay.
It was a full ride, and I had a good friend that she was also going there. So really USD is the only school that I looked at. Well, that's not true. I looked at a couple others, but then I got the scholarship offer from USD, so I just said, you know what, I'm going there.
Okay.
So.
And how would you differentiate USD's theater and the way we do theater, I guess?
Well, I have to put a caveat on there that the last time I was on stage at USD was about 15 years ago.
So things have probably changed.
They've changed quite a bit. USD, I know, they've had a lot of turnover in their faculty. Of course, all of my beloved professors have retired or are retiring. I think the big difference is between the two programs. At the U, it's very specialized. It's a Bachelor of Fine Arts, so it's, they have a very concentrated training program. Actors go through intensive actor training and technicians go through in their specialized fields. Whereas here we're more of a generalist program. We want everybody to do a little bit of everything. And actually that's what I did at USD. I opted for the general BFA degree, which was to kind of do a little bit of everything. So yeah, I think we don't train specific areas. We kind of try to train the artist as a whole. So I think that just makes for a more holistic experience, and it makes you guys more marketable when you get out of here.
Yeah, and also with the theater, the way it's everybody's working together.
Mm-hmm.
And one last question about USD: do you last play you did 15 years ago? Do you remember what it was?
I know I was in a production of Three Penny Opera. Just a bit part in that, but I remember very vividly I had leather pants and a wool vest and a wool jacket, and I had riding boots with like 6-inch heels on them.
I'm guessing you were sweating a lot during it?
Yeah, and then opening night I got sick and got a temperature of 104. So I just remember trying to get out of those leather pants at the end of the night. It was quite the adventure.
And now, some odd years later, you are now with SDSU. Thankfully, thank God. What was the first play you did for SDSU?
That would have been Legally Blonde.
And how was it going straight into one of the biggest musicals we've done in a while, and you're getting to know everybody?
I think at the time, I remember saying to J.D. Ackman, you just really wanted to throw me in there to see if I would survive, didn't you? And so I tease him about that. But really, I think that's the best way I could have started, because it gave me an opportunity to get to know all of the students very quickly. And it was, wouldn't have been my first choice in shows. And so I thought, you know what, I'm starting a new job. I'm going to a new place where I don't know anybody. So what the heck, let's just do a show that I wouldn't normally pick. So we did that, and it was a lot of fun. I'm really glad that that's what I started with.
Favorite number?
I don't remember the name of it, because, theater people, we memorize for one show and then we forget it.
And we don't want to hear it
for
a long time.
I cannot get that, oh my God, you guys, out of my head. But my favorite number was when Elle and Warner were just downstage singing their love ballad to each other, just completely still.
When they break up.
Yeah. Or not Warner.
Oh, no,
I'm sorry. What's the other guy's name? See how much I forget?
Oh, yeah, it's Warner and...
Emmett.
Yeah.
Elle and Emmett. The E's. So yeah, that was a cool number.
And right before Legally Blonde, you also had again jumped in with freshman orientation playing Cogsworth.
Yeah.
How was that also, trying to learn a part a real short amount of time compared to rep, where we at least have a couple of weeks?
Yeah. Well, I remember very vividly what had happened. My parents were out of town and I was house sitting for them. And I went to check on their house, and I walk in and there's water everywhere. Their kitchen is flooded. I'm ankle deep in water. My cell phone rings, and I think it's, the plumber, and it's Billy Wilburn, the director. And he said, yeah, Jim, we need to have you fill in for Beauty and the Beast. Are you willing to do that? And I thought, well, okay, sure. When do we go? He's like, it's in 6 days. And so I thought, okay. So he emailed me the script, and I crammed on the lines. And
Cogsworth's a big part, too.
Yeah. And he said, don't worry, you'll have a rehearsal. And so when I show up, Billy says, all right, everybody, places, we're going to run the show. And I thought, what? Where? What? And he just looked at me and said, just follow Lumiere around, you'll be fine. So it was a lot of fun, and it was certainly very stressful, but again, an opportunity for the students to see, well, I hope I was professional, but you know what I mean? See somebody, I think it's great for students to see professors under pressure and how they handle that. Mm-hmm. There's a strong teaching moment, I think, that can happen there. And there's, of course, some great stories that have come out of that, too. So
how was it wearing the costume?
It sucked a lot. Yeah, that thing was huge, and it didn't, it was built for different actors, so it didn't quite fit. My pants kept falling down, although Billy's actually fell down on stage.
Yep, I remember that.
When he was filling in for another part. I just heard this laughing, and I turn around, and there's Billy in his white tights with his pants around his ankles. It was quite funny.
Live theater.
Yep.
So after doing Legally Blonde, I'm trying to remember. Same thing. I'm forgetting. Did you direct another show before PRT? Or was Legally Blonde
Nope.
the only?
Last year it was just Legally Blonde.
Okay.
And then I did State Fair for PRT last year. And then I kind of got the nickname The Musical Guy, unfortunately, because I did Zombie Prom, then I did Wizard of Oz somewhere else. So I did 4 giant musicals right in a row.
Do you have a preference of either musical or regular shows?
I there's a balance. I like to alternate so you don't get bored or frustrated or what have you with one or the other. Doing Shape of Things this year was really nice because that's completely different from a musical.
Absolutely.
But no, I like to do them all. So.
Do you have a favorite musical?
Ooh, I don't know if I do. Right now, I probably should say Shrek. But I don't know if I do. I like a lot of variety. I like some of the older ones. I like some of the more contemporary ones, big or small. They kind of, before coming to SDSU, I was at the Old Town Dinner Theater, and that's a very, very small space.
Smaller than Donor?
Oh, much smaller. Like the whole building could probably fit on Donor's stage. But so we would do 3 regular plays and then a musical every year. So that was kind of a nice balance for me. So I was excited to do Legally Blonde because I couldn't ever do musicals there with more than like 10 people because we just couldn't fit them. So suddenly then you're doing Legally Blonde with 45 people, and it's it was a challenge and it's fun.
PRT, what would you say current Jim would tell about last year's Jim about doing rep? Like, was there anything about like, whoa, I did not know going in, like the hours or anything else?
Yeah, I think there is. Last year I did a little bit extra and was in a show last year as well, in addition to directing one. And last year it was a blast. I had a lot of fun and I thought, okay, this is great. So I did it again this year. I think I had a lot of freshman nerves going on there and excitement. And this year I'm just like, whew, I am tired. But
you just want to go home and just...
Yep. I don't think that's definitely something I can do every year, direct and be in a show. So I might be taking a break for a while.
Funny how last year you directed the musical and acted in the comedic show, and then this year it's reversed.
Yep.
Is it harder to learn lines in a regular show or a musical?
I don't know. It really does depend on the show. I mean, musicals, obviously the song lyrics are easy to learn because you've got the melody that kind of propels you with it. But, Shrek is... it's amazing to me going into Shrek rehearsals because we have, the current generation of students, this is their thing. They love Shrek. They've seen Shrek 1 through 400, however many of them there are. But for me, Shrek came out when I was in high school. I saw it once, thought, oh, that was cute, and I hadn't seen it since.
Did you see it in theaters or in a...
I saw it when it came out on...
VHS?
Oh, good Lord. Yep. Thanks, Robert, for pointing that one out. Yeah, I saw it when it came out on VHS. So, I'm not as fresh with this as a lot of the cast members. So I find moments of going, holy crap, these kids have this down and I don't. But then I think, well, they've been watching the movie over and over and over. Yeah. So
also, I find it interesting with Shrek how I watched it as a kid, and it's funny because Shrek pushes Donkey and or slapstick humor.
Yeah.
But then you watch it as an adult, and there are jokes there for the adults that you don't know as a kid. Before we talk about this year's rep, I do want to ask, how was it directing Shape of Things? Because I kid you not, designing that show, I love that script. It is so well written. The story is great. Was it your idea to bring up Shape of Things for SUT?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was because I knew I was coming off this stretch of musicals, so I was looking for a script that was completely different. And I had seen a production of this before, a couple of them actually, and I've obviously read the script. So yeah, I think I'm the one that brought it up and said that I would like to direct, if I remember right.
How was it when you read the script and then you got to the ending? We don't have to spoil it, but how was your reaction when you saw it the first time, or you read the script first time and you find out about the ending? I
actually had seen a production before I read the script, so I got to see it how it was meant to be, how people were meant to be exposed to it. I saw it in live theater, and at the end of it I just went, whoa, I did not see that coming. Well, I kind of did. The best thing about it is it's one of those plays that at the end surprises you, but on the drive home, when you think
when you
about it, you're
look
like,
back.
there were little hints there that I should have picked up on. Those are the best type of scripts to me. And I like scripts with a lot of meat to them, a lot of emotional content, especially here, so that our actors can have a chance to work on that type of material and find out what it's like and how hard it is to actually put genuine emotion on stage.
Well, it's also like, because it's not a musical, this could happen in real life too. So in your opinion, I talked a little bit about this with Tice. What do you personally think happened to Adam at the end of the show? The lights go down if the play was 5 minutes longer.
Oh, I think, not to get all weird here, but I think Adam, he almost has to go through some sort of rebirth, because who he is he's been stripped away and destroyed. So he has to find himself again and find his worth again. And I just can't help but believe, and maybe it's my positive Midwestern values, but that he'll do it.
He'll
be fine. Back. It's going to suck for a good long while, but he'll bounce back.
After Shape of Things, we now go into 2 new shows, which are also complete opposite of Shape of Things. The first one is the one you're directing. What can you tell us about the Lone Star Love Potion?
Lone Star Love Potion it's an American farce, and the playwright is very adamant about this. His name is Michael Parker, and he lives in Florida. Now, he's originally from England, but he moved over here, and he was trying to do farces, and he realized that American people can't do the British accent very well. So he said he's going to write an American farce, so we don't have to have the British dialect and all that stuff. So what does he do? He turns around and sets one in Texas, where they have to have a Southern accent. But it's a funny show.
Super funny.
Yeah, and it's a typical farce. The first act is a lot of setup for the gags that are going to come, but then the second act, it's just one laugh after another, awkward situations. And the best thing about farces, there's a lot of, I call them sexual shenanigans in this show, but it's one of those things, and what I like about farces, it's not about people having sex, it's about people trying to. And they never get to, and that's funny.
The situation leading up to it, not the actual act itself.
Yeah, that's what's funny, watching people try and sometimes failing miserably, like Michael in Lone Star Love Potion. He tries too hard and gets in a lot of trouble for it.
Also, speaking of Michael, played by Carter, he's just a force of nature in terms of ad-libbing, in terms of comedy. Do you remember seeing him when you first cast him, when we had auditions, and about what his type of comedy was?
Yeah, I could tell that he was more of a physical actor, at least what I saw from the auditions for Lone Star. He definitely has control physically, and with the stuff that needs to happen in Lone Star, I needed somebody very physical in that role. And the funny thing is about auditions, you see people, and oftentimes people that you don't know, just so briefly, and we have auditions in March, and then you've got to wait until May, and then you wait until the first rehearsal, and then there's that moment as they're reading the script for the first time, and you're like, did I do this right? Did I cast this right? And I remember the first read-through for Lone Star, I just sat back in my chair, and I went, dang, I did this right. The cast is phenomenal.
And I would not change a single actor. They all, this summer, and PRT has done this very well over the years, every part is cast very well. And what I love about like the relationship between Michael and Patrice is it's the odd couple sort of thing. You got Whitney, who's more straight-faced serious, and then you got Carter, who's jumping over couches.
Yep.
Has he gotten hurt actually?
If he has not told a soul. So, no, we try to make sure that everybody is as safe as possible. There's a lot of pratfalls, a lot of tripping and whatnot.
A lot of bathroom breaks.
Allie Cross, who plays Melody, the poor thing, she's got bruises all over her legs, but
she sells it really well.
Yeah, she does. She's a trooper. And, people think, acting, whatever. But it can be a dangerous sport.
It can be, yeah. Because you taught, oh, God, why am I blanking? Stunt?
Oh, stage combat?
Stage combat.
Yep.
How was that?
that was a lot of fun, and I'm actually going to teach that as a course here in the spring. And of course, last summer during PRT, on one of the getting near the end, I offered to do a workshop, and I think I had about 10 people showed up to that, and just learning how to beat each other up safely. So it's a lot of fun.
And on Lone Star, did you see that production first, or did you go by it from reading the script first?
I have never seen a production of this. I just read it when I was managing the dinner theater. Michael Parker, we had done one of his scripts, and then he sent me he's done like 60 scripts, and he sent me one, I swear, once a week. And so I read this, and I thought, I liked it. I thought there was a lot of funny stuff in it. So I actually directed this at the dinner theater about 5-6 years ago. And when we were talking about shows for this summer, and I said, I just really want to do a farce again after the musicals and Shape of Things. And this one just kind of popped into the back of my mind. The dinner theater and PRT, I think, have similar audiences. They have similar tastes. And so I just thought it would go over really well. And it's something fun for the students to work on.
Super funny. And two quick questions about Lone Star. You never meet him, obviously, because he's dead, but they talk about Mr. Stancliffe a lot. And what do you think he was if he was still alive? Do you think he was a good to his butler and his maid?
Oh, yeah. I think he was, it's funny because I try to relate things to the cast, and I've got 15, 20 years on most of them. And the thing that's funny about it is I said, watch the show Dallas that was on in the 80s. I mean, some of these characters are stereotypes right from it. And I guess there's a remake of Dallas out now, and so they're comparing them to the characters now. But I think Stancliffe was just, he was the patriarch of this family and treated everybody really well. Unfortunately, his only relative left living is Patrice, who did not inherit many of his kind genes. So I think he was a very good man, liked to take care of people.
Especially to Jarvis, who played by Addison. And he's great, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I still remember that, was it 2 rehearsals ago, where Carter, at the beginning of Act 2, is doing one of his ad-libs where we don't know what he's going to say.
Yep.
And without skipping a beat, Addison
was right there with him.
With it, and it was just pure magic right there.
Yeah. Well, and that's a difficult part too, because it's what we call the straight character, where they don't get many of the laugh lines. They're just they're
the setup.
But Addison has made Jarvis his own enough that Jarvis has a lot of funny lines, but he doesn't have to go over the top and be physical and falling around. He just says the lines, and he does it so deadpan that you can't help but giggle at him.
Yeah, I mean, it's again like just the Odd Couple thing. When you have one character who's just super goofy, but then another just straight-faced.
Yeah.
It's just comedy right there. And was it, again, fun to go from Shape of Things, totally different, to now a farce?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When you're doing Shape of Things, you're spending every rehearsal invested in these deep emotions, and there's a lot of, analyzing, trying to get the actor to relate to the character. Okay, put yourself in this situation. How would this make you feel? What do you think motivated this thought? But then when you go to farce, it's like, don't even think about it. Just do it.
Just have fun.
You've got to, but farce is tricky. I mean, timing is critical. There's a lot of doors slamming that have to happen. If they're a beat off, the joke isn't funny. So there's a lot of work like that. So that's the big difference. You're working on timing more than character. And, and that's all I did at the dinner theater was farces. So it's kind of nice to go back and do one again.
Okay. And my last question about Lone Star, actors typically have, when they've done the show, they've usually discovered something new that they did not know. What would you say was the last thing you discovered that was new that you did not expect for Lone Star?
One thing that I thought was kind of cool is, directors always try to get like a metaphor or something for the show. And early on, I told the cast, I said, go watch the movie Clue. This is kind of the same style, and I pointed to him and I said, you're Mrs. Peacock, you're Mr. Green, you're this, that.
Butler is the butler.
Yeah, and so we do that for every show, and usually it's something that the cast helps them get a frame of reference. They work on it, they get it. The audience doesn't usually notice, but somebody came up to me after the preview the next morning and said, I was watching that show, and about 10 minutes into it, I thought, man, this is a lot like the movie Clue. And I went, ha-ha, it actually does work.
It works.
So, yeah, so that was just kind of something cool. That was the last thing that, because, we think about these things and think, well, nobody's really going to get the correlation, but somebody did. So
it works.
Yeah.
And that was just day one of performances. So
yeah.
And speaking of movies, that leads to segue Shrek.
Yep.
I've talked a little bit about this with Devin and Tyus, but what's your opinion playing a character that is known by a lot of people versus playing a character that you can really make your own creation and no one will?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think when they think of Donkey, they think
Eddie Murphy. Yep. That's a fine line that an actor has to walk. I mean, and I talked about this with Billy. It's, when people come to see this, they're going to expect certain things. So how can you pay tribute to Eddie Murphy originating that while still making it your own? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I decided very early on was that I was not going to go back try to find a VCR and watch my copy of Shrek. I was just going to try to go based off of my memories of watching that. Okay. Because then what I could do, the things that Eddie Murphy did that stuck out in my mind that I really enjoyed, those I remember and I put into the character. But the rest of it, I can just it comes from me. Because you don't want to copy him.
Right.
But yet at the same point, you don't want to go in a completely different direction so that when people come and watch it, they go, what? That's not right.
Yeah. It'd be very different if you went as Barry White or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But
well, there is the Barry White moment in there.
That is true. That is true. And you do that very well. So with Shrek, how would you say, were you surprised how different it was from the movie, the musical? I mean, there's the story is the same, but there's a lot of new things they've thrown.
No, I think the basic story is there to me, and again, 15-20 year memory here. I remember all of the things that are in the show. Obviously, a lot of the songs weren't in. Some of them were in the movie, but not a lot of them. I think it does a pretty good job of compacting that in there. The challenge is, there's a couple of challenges that it's so well known, and taking it from a cartoon to live action.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more difficult to play a humanized donkey than it would be, say, to play an IRS man last summer. So there's that element in there too. I mean, you got to explore different movement patterns and all sorts of vocal things. So I mean, that's been kind of a challenge with that. But I think the story is loved enough that people aren't going to go, oh, it's not a cartoon. I mean, they're just going to go, and the costumes are brilliant.
Oh my, yeah. What did you think of wearing when you first wore the donkey? I mean, have you worn the ears?
No, I have not. But no, I tried on the bodysuit the other day. What I first thought was, holy crap, I'm going to be hot. Because it's a lot of padding and layers, and the top layer is fur. But Billy he said, we're going to stitch pouches in your costume to put ice packs in to keep you cool. And Donor has much better air conditioning this year, which I'm looking forward to.
Yes, that was not like that last year.
No, it was, and this summer's been pretty mild to begin with. I remember last year, even State Fair, the first show, was really hot in there. Yeah. So, I mean, we've been blessed with cooler weather this year. Mm-hmm. But, and once I put that costume on, then I went, oh, okay, I'm a weird actor in that regard, that I don't truly find the character 100% until I have the costume.
Yeah, because I've noticed my favorite moments are when you wear the gloves and you get it's just the subtle things, how you make it move like a hoof.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, like, what do you think of the concept of Donkey and the Dragon together?
Well, it's it's weird for me. I guess I'm a little more traditional, but Danny and I were trying to, because apparently, and I didn't know this, I've never seen any of the Shrek sequels, but apparently Donkey and Dragon get married and have babies.
Donkey, Dragon, baby?
Yeah, so Danny and I were talking who plays the dragon, and we said, what would you call those? Are they dronkies, or are they donkins, or what do you call these things? So thankfully we're not addressing that in this show.
I think that'd be just too weird.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's like you mentioned earlier, there's some adult things and there's some kid things. I think for the kids, the message is love has no bounds, both with Shrek and Princess Fiona, Dragon and Donkey. For the adults, if you choose to think that far into it, you've missed the point of the show. Just, hey, there's two things that found each other that love each other. That's awesome.
And how has it been working with Devin and Danny? Since that most of your scenes are with those two.
Mm-hmm. And I do have a couple with Christy, who plays Princess Fiona. But, it's kind of... I really enjoy this opportunity in the summer to get on stage with the students. I think it's important for the students, since they're learning from us as their professors, it's important for them to see us actually practice what we're teaching. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side of that, what I almost get more value out of is seeing how everybody works, and just, that energy and the passion that college theater students have. It's infectious, and it's a refresher course for me too. Mm-hmm. Because not that you try to, but there are times when you just kind of get complacent in what you're doing, and it's okay, this is how you do it. So it's nice to do this every once in a while and say, oh, there's a perspective I've never seen, I might try that next time.
Okay.
So,
and what would you say is your favorite number in Shrek, or favorite joke?
My favorite number, it's the end of Act 1 with Donkey, Shrek, and Fiona.
Oh, man, yeah.
I love singing that part. All of Donkey's songs are very, very fast, so there's a lot of word twisting and stuff going on there, and just trying to breathe. But that one is it's a true ballad, and I love singing that with Christy and Devin. I just feel it works really well together.
Well, it's great also because that's the moment where you realize he's not just an ogre.
Mm-hmm. And for Donkey, it's that moment of he's not just the stupid sidekick. Mm-hmm. He does have insight and feelings. So
yeah, and I think my personal favorite joke, though, is still donuts and diabetes.
Yep. I love that part, too.
And before, I have 3 little quick questions, but before I get to that, I just want to know, do you have any final words you want to say about the shows, PRT in general, for our listeners?
I think I would just say that, the organization itself does wonderful things, and it has been for longer than I've been alive. But I would just say this summer I feel like we have been truly blessed with a lot of great talent, and that teamwork and the collaborative nature is stronger this year than it was last year. I mean, I don't have a lot of basis for comparison, but it's just everybody is pitching in, and it feels like a cohesive company this year, and we've got 3 strong shows out of the gate, and Shrek is going to be the 4th. So I feel like we're putting together 4 very strong shows this year that people will enjoy. And they're different, and none of them have been produced by PRT before. All 4 shows this year are something we've never done before.
How was your first reaction when you heard we're going to do Shrek the Musical?
Billy, you're nuts. No, I didn't.
You were thinking that.
No, Billy's capable hands can handle Shrek, and that's his passion. That's what he likes to do, and he's wonderful at it. When I heard we were going to do it, I thought, oh, that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But then when we got to auditions, and I was like, oh, Donkey sounds kind of fun. It reminds me of those high school roles where I got to be the goof. And so I thought, maybe I'll go for that. So.
All right. And I have 3 quick, fun, a little whatever questions. First question, throughout your whole life, how often are you called Jim/James Woods?
Oh, more than you know. I always tell people, it drives me nuts that people just assume and put an S on. I'm very sensitive to names because of that. And my real first name is actually William,
right.
And I go by my middle name, Jim. It also drives me nuts when people see my name and they call me Bill. They just assume that I go by Bill. And so, like, if their name is, Bob, I'll say, oh, I'm doing fine, George,
Frank.
And they look at me like, what? I'm like, well, how do you feel being called by something that isn't your name?
Yeah.
But no, I've been called that a lot. The Woods thing, I just kind of, that goes in one ear and out the other.
Have you had that with the company this year, or not so much?
Nope. Well, that's why I hate that I do this, because to me it feels a little bit pretentious. But professionally, I use my first initial, W. James Wood, because it happened to me at USD. My first show, they did the typo on my name, and they said, this role played by James Woods, and everybody's like, oh, James Woods, are you kidding me?
And then they see who it is.
I'm like, do you really think James Woods would come to South Dakota and do a show at a college? Probably not. So.
And second question, what fairy tale creature do you think deserves its own spin-off?
They all do. They're just the ensemble work in Shrek is very impressive to me. There are so many good things going on. I mean, even without the costumes, people assuming these characters like the Mad Hatter, the Ugly Duckling, and just seeing how these people move, they're very believable. But I have to say, Robert, the one character I want to see in their own spin-off is your rendition of the Bishop.
Oh,
that makes me laugh every single time.
Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, a lot of that, have you ever seen Wreck-It Ralph before?
I have not.
There's a character named King Candy. He's the main villain, and he was, the actor who played him, his rendition came from Charles Nelson Riley, apparently, and he just talks like this, and just...
It's the combination of the voice and how you move. It's
Yes.
pretty funny.
I don't know why, but I always have to, like, move my hands and just vibrate my body, but I appreciate that you liked it.
Yep.
And last question, if PRT had an unlimited budget and unlimited space, what show do you want them to do?
Oh, boy.
PRT on Broadway.
I would really love to do Hairspray. I don't
Really?
know why. I just love those. I love cheesy musicals. There's some nice serious ones too, but there's part of me that I had a good friend that always said he hated musicals, and I asked him why, and he said because nobody in real life just randomly bursts into a song.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you're looking at the musical wrong. That's not the point. You don't look at a musical as realism. And so I kind of have this thing where it's like, if I'm going to do a musical where people are going to do unrealistic things like bursting into song, let's do it hokey and cheesy.
Yeah.
And that's just a fun show. So I would love to be able to do that. And I think it would go over very well in rep.
Also, it's like, it's similar to Shrek, where it's like civil rights pretty much right there.
Yeah. And I love the musicals where you can have a lot of fun, but there's still a point. There's still a message or a theme to it. So
Yeah. And I think all 4 of these shows have done that very well. And Jim, I cannot thank you enough for giving up an hour of your dinner break for little old me. And I also have to thank you because I noticed just like a couple of weeks ago that I think tech-wise, I think I've worked with you the most. And I thank you every time that you give me the opportunity to let me work with you. I always enjoy working with you.
I appreciate that.
And I consider you a very good friend. And and a very good leader. So, Jim, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Robert.
And yeah, go see Lone Star Love Potion, which we have a couple more performances left up until Sunday at 2 o'clock, all at Donor Auditorium. And that little independent show, Shrek, will be around the corner in a few weeks, and then we'll bring it all to Brandon.
Yep.
Are you excited for Brandon?
I am. Everybody works so hard that it's nice. People can slow down a little bit and start getting some rest when we go to Brandon. So I think it's a good reward for the company. So.
Yeah. And on that note, thank you, Jim. We'll see you in the next episode.